City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded September 5, 2023.
All right, I have 2 o'clock. I will call to order the PFC meeting for September 5th at 2 p.m. First on the agenda is the roll call. Candy, could you please call the roll?
Kirschling.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Mrozek. Here. Ostrowski.
Here.
Excellent. Mr. Zenner is excused. Happy anniversary to him and Ray. Second agenda item is the President's report. Very limited today. Special thanks to Steel King. Thank you very much for the donation to the K-9 unit. We greatly appreciate that. Really don't have much else than that today. Third on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have them in your packet. You should have had time to review them. Any comments, questions, motions?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Kirschling, second.
Second by Kirschling. Questions or comments about the minutes from last month? Anyone? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Fourth agenda item is confirmation of bills. Mr. Ostrowski.
Okey-doke, bear with me. You'll probably see me going on and off with glasses, getting used to after cataract surgery. It's amazing what I could see before I can't, and now what I could see now I don't. Biggest change is up close. Taking the police department report, first of all, looking down at nothing jumped out at me other than to be advised of to the chief, the vests and carriers for the auxiliary, $4,000. Is that to cover every auxiliary member? Does that cover?
No, it's not to cover every auxiliary, but that is actually from the donation account as well, the money that they've raised throughout the year.
Okay, and then proceeding on to the fire department, nothing jumps out on me other than to point out to people how much it costs every time we change an employee. I mean, employee costs are going through the roof, but that's all part of it, but nothing jumps out on that one. Same thing with the fire department, nothing there, and so as a result, from my standpoint, everything I reviewed, I'd recommend we approve bills as submitted.
All right, is that a motion, sir?
Yes.
We have a second to that motion to approve both reports.
Second by Mrozek.
Second by Mrozek. Comments or questions from any other members? Comments or questions from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries, and both of those reports are approved. Agenda item number 5 is discussion with possible action on approval for one job offer for patrol officer position due to the Officer Rosek's retirement, pending medical and psychological exams. Chief.
Yes, thank you very much. So Assistant Chief Williams went through the entire hiring process just in the last couple months. Out of that process, we ended up finding 2 candidates. The first one, which we are talking about now, his name is James Harper. He graduated from Memorial High School in Eau Claire. He has his bachelor's degree in criminal justice and homeland security as a minor in forensic psychology. He started his law enforcement career in Augusta, at the Augusta Police Department in August of 2018. And for the last 5 years, he's been with the Chippewa Falls Police Department. He's currently, he's gone through instructor development. He's a field training officer for Chippewa Falls. He's attended the FBI Leadership School, and he's also their department's licensed drone operator. Married for about 11 years, has a 6-year-old child, and one of the reasons he wants to come here to Stevens Point is because his wife actually works up at the hospital in Wausau, and so she's been commuting quite a bit. He really wants to come to Central Wisconsin, and we really want to have him here. And so what I'd like to do is get permission from all of you, approval, to implement our lateral transfer, which is part of the union contract, and ask that you approve that we bring him over at the 3-year step which includes a 2 weeks vacation as well. And one of the things with the approval is we put a hard date of December 4th because he does have a house that he would have to sell and get everything organized and stuff over there at Chippewa Falls. And so the expected start date would be before or on December 4th. If everything goes well, it would be before December 4th.
You said the lateral transfer is something that's been done in the past?
Yes, actually, we implemented on this last contract bargaining agreement, and Jason Dinger, Officer Dinger, was actually our first lateral transfer from Cronenwetter, and this individual will be our second lateral transfer based on his experience.
Any other questions or motions?
I'll make a motion to give approval to give James Harper a conditional offer of employment pending the successful completion of his medical and psychological exam with the lateral step transfer, and for him to start on or before December 4th.
And that's at the 3-year, right?
Correct.
The 3-year step.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it,
We have a
Maroza.
second by Maroza. Questions or comments?
Chief, would he be subject to the usual probationary period?
Yes, it's still, the probationary period is a 1.5 years, and the FTO process is approximately 3 months.
Any unusual budgetary effects?
No, right now, we've been down an employee for almost a year,
Yeah.
and so, no, there's no budgetary effects whatsoever.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 6, discussion with possible action on approval for 1-year eligibility list due to several expected retirements within the police department in 2024. Chief, back to you.
This is a unique situation that we actually are put into on this. Obviously, through the hiring process, we had 2 incredible candidates, and this is one of them. It's very hard to get good applicants, and this individual, Garrick, his name is Garrick Gentvet. Nobody had anything bad to say about this young man. He is an incredible applicant. He actually ranked first with us as well for this process. He graduated from high school, Wild Rose High School, with a 4.3 because of the college classes that he was taking in high school. He is currently enrolled at the University of Stevens Point, and as of right now, he does have a 4.0 GPA, and he's expected to graduate May of 2024 in a bachelor's degree in biology. His ultimate goal, after several years law enforcement, is to become a detective of sensitive crimes here at the Stevens Point Police Department. He already attended Mid-State Technical College, the 720-hour law enforcement academy, so he is actually somebody that we could hire immediately, but I'll get to that in a second. Obviously, his accomplishments in education are incredible. Everybody that we talked to, even the technical college, the 720 law enforcement, said the guy has a great work ethic, he's a great communicator, he gets along with everybody, extremely intelligent, so on and so forth. So one of the things I'd like to ask the commission is I truly believe we can't let this individual slip by us. He'd be a great asset to the department. And we called him in and we talked to him, and after speaking with his parents, the one thing that he definitely, one of his goals is to graduate from the University of Stevens Point with that degree. And therefore, he wouldn't be able to actually start until May after graduation. And I do believe that he is such a strong candidate that I think we should offer him a conditional offer upon his graduation in May of 2024. We are going to have to start the process again in January, most likely. We have Officer Quisler, who's going to be retiring January 5th of 2024. And we also have Lieutenant Moss, who's actually shown that he is going to be retiring next year as well, just we don't know what, when, and where. And again, so what I'm asking the Police and Fire Commission for on this is approval to actually give him a conditional offer of employment upon his graduation in May of 2024 and him starting with the police department in May of 2024. to cover Officer Quisler's position, which is going to be vacant January 5th of 2024.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of how to phrase the question. Because it is 9 months out, if he does change his mind, he just notifies us, and we start, like you had talked about,
Yep.
in January, I think you said?
Yep, we're going to start the process in January again as well because of
Okay.
some other retirements that are taking place. All three of us, myself, Assistant Chief Rotier, and Assistant Chief Williams, sat down with this young man. He wants to work here.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, I'm never, ever going to take that goal away from him. We even tried to let him know that we do have an educational benefit where we'd actually help him pay for the last semester of school. But he's dedicated to that, and so I do want him to graduate, but he definitely wants to come and work here. So yes, if we give him the conditional offer, he could pull out if he ever wanted to. I don't think that's going to happen, but if he does, then we still have the process going on in January as well, that we could find somebody through that, hopefully.
So just to be clear, you, are you paying for his last semester or not?
We are not.
Okay. All right.
This has all the other regular stipulations on it as far as all the requirements need to be met.
Correct, the psychological and the medical as well.
Correct. Okay.
Those checks would be done first in spring, shortly before graduation?
Correct. We'd probably, Assistant Chief Williams schedules that, we would probably do that in March. So upon successful completion of those two tests, then we can actually get a uniform ordered and have it actually here when he would start in May.
So essentially, there'd be no expense to the city till sometime in late spring.
Correct.
So I know that he stated, and I can't see any reason why he wouldn't, complete his, graduate. Do you want the condition upon his graduation in May? Do you want those wordings in there, or just conditional offer for employment for May 2024?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, with the
Yeah.
successful completion?
The psychological and the
Right,
medical,
right,
yeah, in
'cause
case
he's already-
he wants to drop out, he's still
Right,
eligible
because
to be a police officer.
he's still completed it. I just want to make sure that we're wording this
Correctly.
correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Denise, you seem to have it.
All right. Motion to approve the conditional offer of employment for Jarek Jensvet of May of 2024 upon successful completion of the medical and psychological exams.
Kirschling, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further comments or questions about this motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 7 is the police chief's report. Chief.
All right, first of all, thank you for that vote. He is an individual we do not want to see go someplace else. Obviously, President Moore already had stated Steel King was here this morning. They donated $5,000 to our new canine handler, who's going to be going to school here on Thursday to pick out the dog. And Steel King has decided to name the dog Koi. When you talk to Brian, who's the president of Steel King, they talked to the company, and he wanted to do something with the past, present, and the future. So they came up with the name Koi because obviously he was a businessman who started a furniture company here in the late 1800s. And then with everything that's on Koi Drive in the industrial park, he felt that their world headquarters now is being built on Koi Drive, and they thought Koi would be a really phenomenal name for our new canine. And it's most likely going to be a male because we had the opportunity of JD going down there. And I can talk about that as well. So JD, our other handler, had gone down to Von Lick in Indiana and competed in the Canine Olympics. He competed against 107 other teams throughout the entire world, not the United States, the world. They took second place. While he was down there, he was able to run several of the dogs that are up for the handlers on September 7th, run them through a lot of the training to see which ones were the best, because we are number 1 on their list. We get the first choice, and it's down to 2 males, and so it's going to be a male canine, and his name is going to be Koi. So
Is that COYE?
Yep, COYE.
COYE, okay.
So congratulations, JD and Barry, they did phenomenal. Just to go through the notes of interest really quickly, obviously the applicant interviews for the new officer to fill Officer Rossick's position. We're going to be hopefully filling that right here in December. One of the things, we got a new parking truck, and what we ended up finding out is that the new parking truck had a lot of issues with the computer and the license plate readers. Lieutenant Johnson did some follow-up with that. The license plate readers are not even made anymore. You can't even get parts for them anymore. They're that old. And it wasn't working in conjunction with the computer. We reached out to Comptroller Laddick, and in the enterprise fund for parking, so it's not going to cost us anything out of our operational budget. He had agreed that we can actually replace all of that. So we did hire a company, and they're going to be, as soon as we get the parking truck back from Belco, they'll be installing the brand new license plate readers and computer for our parking truck. August 23rd, we ended up doing interviews for a school resource officer who will be taking over PJ Jacobs in January upon Officer Quisler's retirement. School district was part of those interviews. We selected Officer Chi Yang. He is going to do phenomenal in there to take over as a school resource officer at PJ's. One of the things that we really looked forward to when we moved over to this building is hosting training. We were able to actually get leadership and police organizations training here, it's throughout the entire state of Wisconsin. And so we are bringing in 39 people who are being trained right now in that, and they come in once a week each month for the next 3 months. And so we held our first week of it. Assistant Chief Williams and Officer Mike Schultz, they provided the lunch throughout the entire program every single day for the 4 days. And we get reimbursed from them for providing that, but they've been working very, very hard to get some good food for them for their lunchtime. But again, it's bringing in, there's probably 15 out of the 39 that are staying here for the entire week at local hotels, and obviously eating supper here and breakfast here, and so it's very good for the community. And on the 30th of August, they had the Dream Flight. It was rescheduled for the 30th of August. So some of us officers went out there. We actually got to see one of our old officers here. Anthony Bemke was one of them that got chosen to do the Dream Flight. It's an old plane that they used to train pilots for World War II in. Fire department was there assisting and helping individuals in and out of the plane. It was a really, really neat thing to be a part of. So, and then on August 17th, just the last thing, we've been having some issues come up with downtown and some stuff that might be going on down there that probably isn't best for the community. So our Central Wisconsin Drug Task Force, actually, we brought in a lot of detectives from other agencies that went undercover for us, and they did a detail downtown. And out of that detail, we were able to obtain 21.97 grams of crack cocaine, 4.5 grams of meth pills, just under 2 grams of marijuana, and the subject was in possession of a firearm as well.
Wow.
Chief, you had in the past, from my recollection, put in here calls to Spash, calls to PJs, and calls to Ben. Are you seeing them staying steady, rising, falling?
So right now, with the summer, obviously school's not in session, so that will start coming out again here shortly. 2 of the school resource officers are detectives that work in the Detective Bureau during the summer, and then Officer Quisler's been working the road. And so next month, because school started today, those numbers will be back in there on things that they're responding to. So.
That would make sense.
Goes on top of that, right?
Any other questions for the chief on his report?
Chief, I was talking about summer school. Summer school.
Nice cover.
Yeah.
Make a motion to accept the report and place it on file. We have a second.
Second by Morozek.
Second by Morozek. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on. Agenda item number 8, discussion with possible action on moving forward with the employment of entry-level firefighter paramedics Josh Sturgis and Connor Rowe. Chief Moody, over to your side of the table.
All right, so I would like to point out exactly what Commissioner Ostrowski was talking about in our operational budget. This year, on the fire side of the operational budget, we're already 132% over budget when it comes to pre-employment testing. And on the EMS side, we are 73% over budget. But being that far over budget means there's been a lot of good success within the Stevens Point Fire Department. And so pending these two's conditional offers and making sure that everything is accepted and goes through appropriately, I'm looking for the PFC to accept these two individuals as firefighter paramedics within the Stevens Point Fire Department. And I would just like to point out that both these people have already accepted the conditional offers. We're moving forward pending the completion of the conditional offer and your approval. The Stevens Point Fire Department will actually be fully staffed for the first time in a very long time. And so these would be the last two positions open in the department as firefighter paramedics, if approved by the commission today.
Are these brand new, or are they coming from other departments, or what?
So they both have experience. One has military experience as a paramedic and is also an educator when it comes to the EMS side of the house. The other comes from another department but does not have paramedic experience, but is also working currently as one of our interns within the department and has shown great strides forward in what we have set for his expectations as chief officers, and then what the crew's expectations of him were as an intern. He's fulfilled all of those things and exceeded those. And so we feel he will be a great fit with the Stevens Point Fire Department as well.
When would these two go on board?
So we are looking at, it's usually after the conditional offer and everything's put through, it's usually about 6 to 8 weeks. The other academy is going to be graduating this week, and I'll bring that up in the fire chief's report. But we are looking at realistically January 8th to start these last two individuals.
And is the one individual currently enrolled in the paramedic course, or they're going to be, or what's the status on that?
One currently has a license, one is completing his license and will be done by the end of this year. So we'll be in time to start the next academy. We'll be fully certified.
Okay.
Already budgeted for both positions?
Already budgeted, both positions.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the employment of entry-level firefighter paramedics Josh Sturgis and Connor Rowe. Do you want a start date in there, or do you want to leave it open?
I'd like to leave it open at this point just in case something happens throughout the holiday season or the academy with our division chief of training.
Okay.
Okay, standard though, requirements all
Right,
met.
completion,
Both
Yeah,
of those
upon
things.
completion of,
requirements of conditional offer.
per words,
There you go.
pending medical and psychological exams.
That's part of the conditional
Yep,
offer.
okay,
Okay.
whatever chief has in there, right?
All right, okay, so we have a motion, Kirschling.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any further
second.
questions or comments? Anyone out there? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 9, discussion with possible action on changes to the fire EMS monthly reports. Chief, what is this all about?
So as you can see in front of you, I laid a packet in front of each one of you, a little different. I did not include it in the actual report because it is not the official report from the department. This is something that we put together that I would like to go through with all of you and see where everybody's at, and maybe have the ability to meet with each of you or have you ask questions over the next month or two before we potentially change something here. The chief's report has been somewhat similar in nature for a very long time. As many of you know, and I tell many members of the department, if we're not moving forward, we're moving backwards. And I think it's time that the chief's report changes maybe a little bit to show better data, better reflection of what the men and women are doing within the department. And with some new software, I think we're capable of doing that and presenting that to the commission. This package or packet would be part of that. And so how the new report would look as instead of having a 2 or 3 page bullet pointed report on the fire side and the same on the EMS side, we would actually put the data together for you. And the first page would be kind of a summary of what that has been in the past. But then when you move to the second page, you'll actually see the top 15 types of incidences we're responding to within the Stevens Point Fire Department. And you can tell exactly what we're going to, whether it's no fire, unintentional detector activation, gas leak, a building fire, alarm sounding due to a malfunction, dispatched and canceled en route, an EMS assist. All that data would be there at your fingertips to be able to review as commissioners. On that second page, it'll show incidences by category, monthly and yearly, and I think this is where this will really show what we're doing within the department and where the department is trending and where we're moving forward to. You can see it's broke down per month, per call, but if I can point you into the direction of 2023, the grand totals, the number one is fires. 37 actual working fires for the year within the city. Total incidences are up 5%. If you look back to 2022, it'll show you we had 34 at this time throughout the year, which was 5%, a change in 8.82% call volume up for just working structure fires within the city this last year. All data that is at your fingertips. The big thing I'd like to point out on this page is when you trend everything, you'll see that we're up 14.58% on the fire side alone. And by the end of the year, we projected to be 21.87% above last year's call volume. So a significant change in 1 year, 21.87% in call volume just on the fire side of the house alone. It can also show you on the next page aid given and received. It can be broken down monthly, or if you swing to the next page, it can be broken down annually as well. And it can show that automatic aid's been given, you know, how many times we've given automatic aid, 8 times and gone outside the city, and it's been received 18 times. So it shows where we're going and who's assisting us as well. All this data, again, is at your fingertips. We can show property loss and incidences for the month and for the year. The other thing I'd like to point out is if this is something we'd like to go to, besides showing the losses, we can show the actual property saved as well, the top 20 on that end as well. And I think that's important when we go through all that data. So this would be something that I would just like the commissioners to look at, something to think about. If there's something you would like us to run numbers on, or you would like to see some changes or anything else, please contact me over the next month or two. Let me know what you're thinking. I'd like to sit down with each one of you or hear your thoughts, take that, manipulate the system here to be able to work with Continuum and show the new data that is exactly what you're looking for, and then be able to produce that document for everyone and potentially change what the fire and EMS chief's report's going to look like in the future.
I have just a general question. With our fire marshal and deputy marshal, are they overseeing all of the inspections now for buildings, or are we still having other firefighters go out and do that? Because, you know, I mean, they're tasked to do that too, in addition to everything else here.
They still will be going out and doing some inspections, but the inspections that they're going to be doing are going to be under the direction of actually both of our division chiefs.
Okay.
So Division Chief Ewing, who's in charge of training, and Sinner, who's in charge of the actual bureau, will coordinate what inspections they're going to be doing, and they're going to be doing them more as a crew and instead of just a company, and it's going to be learning actual structures within their still alarm or their second in or second due areas, and that way it becomes a training aspect and they get the inspection completed. But they're not going to be out there just doing company inspections to just get them done. That's going to be tasks for the Bureau. These are going to be more, what are the new structures, what do they look like, and more of a training element to them.
But we still have data on that, tracking of what?
We can produce any of that. So if we want to add training hours, and we can break the training apart to see what they're actually training in, whether it's EMS, fire, technical rescue, or even further, if we want to break that apart, we can do that as well. So it's whatever we want to put in there.
On the initial once over, I do like the format and the information contained in the report.
Oh, yeah.
This is nice.
My only complaint is the font is too small for us blind.
Well, we can work on that. We can work on that. We'll shrink the pies and graphs and make the font larger. So we can do that. But again, please get me any questions, comments, concerns you may have, any other data you'd like to see in it. Probably going to stay with the old format for probably another month or two, hear everybody's feedback, and then try to produce this moving forward. Maybe the end of the year, maybe it'd be we'll start January 1, something like that, as long as we got everything worked out.
Is this a national program that you're buying into or something?
Nope, this is something that our chief officers have taken the time to go out and do some data and research, and really wanted to bring a program back to be able to show data. And we talk about that recruitment, retention, and morale within the firehouse. This data can actually show if they're meeting the requirements of getting out of the house on time, if they're getting on scene within the appropriate amount of time, which crew's doing better than the other, kind of making it a competition a little bit in the firehouse, that camaraderie. All this is capabilities of this. So that's where we started, and now we want to break the data apart and be able to provide that to you as well.
And our equipment presently will handle this report?
The equipment, the computer?
Computers and...
Yes.
And I would assume you've gotten some positive feedback from line staff in regards to?
It's very interesting to see their reactions as they review the data, because everybody talks about it, but until you actually see it, see the numbers, see the times, see the responses, it changes things.
And is this going to be, and I know everyone gets all this notification, in emails and stuff like that, but is this going to be posted anywhere as visuals for, the line staff to be able to see it, like in a common area?
We've talked about being able to put it right on our computer screens or our monitors.
Okay.
So it'd be a rotating thing that you would see, not maybe just one thing, but it would rotate through several different options and data, and then along with whatever else is being presented around the firehouse.
Okay, I think that would be a good.
But it would be available to the members of the department for their review as well.
Okay.
So that is, I'm not looking for any action at this point. I just wanted to review everything and discuss it, and probably bring this back later this year for discussion and action to change the reporting process.
Very good. Any other questions for the chief before we move on? All right, hearing none, we'll put that agenda item down, and we're going to move on to agenda item number 10, which is update on the fire department's capital budget for 2024. Chief, where are we at?
All right, so just wanted to update everybody on the capital for the year. This year, we did have a significant increase in our turnout gear requests. We did get that. That's a reoccurring capital for $50,000. We did get our reoccurring general fire equipment for $23,000. We got our reoccurring technical rescue equipment for $17,250. Communications, again, is a reoccurring capital improvement project for $30,000. And another reoccurring capital improvement project is our fire hose and nozzles for $15,000 in total. The other things that we did ask for in capital improvement but did not get funded was our new station, Station 3 at our training facility. Additionally, we asked for furniture to outfit that station. Again, we also asked to update and redo the apparatus bay at Station 1, which was denied. And then lastly, we did get the roof at Station 2. We've had several leaks and issues at Station 2. Part of that funding was encumbered funds from this year in capital. $69,000 we encumbered into 2024 for that. And then I also had a letter from the comptroller's office and approval from the Common Council that the rest of the funds would be budgeted for out of the 2024 budget, which they did honor for the tune of $151,000. We are also in the process of writing a Leary Foundation grant to assist us with that additional funding for fire hose and nozzles, to assist us with hopefully being able to purchase all new types of hose and nozzles that we've been training on and trying to figure out what vendors and where we want to go in the future, because we're not meeting the standards and expectations of the department with the current hose and nozzles we have. So it's time to move on and become up to date with those things. So that is where we are at with capital currently moving forward into 2024.
Any questions for the chief?
The apparatus bay, would you agree that it's very tight in there with all the equipment?
Tight is an understatement.
That's why I kind of introduced so you can talk about that.
So right now, we are struggling between the two stations. I, at this point, will tell you that there are apparatuses that have less than 8 inches between them from bumper to bumper. And the reason I say 8 inches is because the standard is if you are building a new station, the expectation is you have 8 feet around the complete apparatus. We don't have 8 inches. Some of our apparatuses, we literally need to, as we're backing them in, run in bumper to bumper and hit each other in order to make sure the garage doors go down with the ambulances. And up to this last month, or actually this last week, we have had several near misses out on Division Street, backing our engine 1 in now off the front apron. And so we have changed how we're operating, and we are now backing it in through the back parking lot. Of course, that apparatus bay does not line up. It's offset. So I'm just waiting for somebody to take a mirror or hit something in a response mode. Response delays there are going to be because of these changes, and it's becoming a safety issue for our members. We have to drop airbags or air suspension systems to ride up over bumpers, potentially taking out taillights. It's becoming a problem over there. The plan to create Station 3 was not only as a training facility to add a classroom and a state-of-the-art simulation lab for EMS, but it was also to alleviate some of the issues we're currently having with the apparatuses and where we house them inside. Our plan was to take Truck 1 and Med 5 and place them both at the training facility. Truck 1 as our new training apparatus, and Med 5 so that after Med 1 and Med 2 go out on calls, the rest or the remaining members that are on staff can continue training there and catch Med 5 as a third out ambulance if needed. And I can show you some data that'll support the reasoning for that a little bit further on in this report when it comes to EMS. But also to update you, we'll go there in a little bit. But yeah, there's some concerns.
Yeah, we need to address this.
Yeah,
So-
this problem is not only Station 1, but Station 2 also.
Correct. Both stations have definitely outlived the parameters of the way fire apparatuses were designed and built and how we responded from 1967, which was when Station 1 was actually opened.
Has anybody ever looked at feasibility of adding on to either of those buildings?
Yes, we did look at adding on. When Station 2 was remodeled in 2008-9, roughly, that was added on to. And we did look at adding on to Station 1 probably about 20 years ago. And that was just not feasible either due to the cost restraints that were put in front of us at that time. Obviously, those costs have gone up significantly as you know, building costs and materials continue to go on the rise. But Station 3 at our training facility would be where we would look at eventually moving some of these apparatuses. And then again, as many of you know, we are not servicing the east side of the city appropriately when it comes to fire and EMS services. We are not meeting any of the response timeframes or matrices. Actually, the City of Stevens Point Fire Department right now does not meet any standards on the east side of I-39. So anybody living on the east side of I-39, we don't appropriately service their area, city or towns or villages. So that's something we're looking at as well with a potential Station 4, but that'll have to come with some additional staffing as well.
Well, the thing, what I'm hearing, Chief, then, we not only, Station 3 would have helped the situation, but that wouldn't have changed that the buildings still need to be changed in size to handle the type of equipment we have nowadays.
They need to be updated.
Yeah.
Do we find ourselves with the potential with OSHA, or, I mean, you're talking about the standards 8 feet around and we have 8 inches, you know, and the potential for our staff to
So
be getting
the
injured?
fire department doesn't fall under OSHA, it falls
Okay.
under NFPA. But again, that's where we lie and what we have to follow. And again, certain standards are different than statutes or law.
Okay.
And so statutes and law are mandatory, we must follow. Standards are what we would like to be able to consider appropriate or best practice. And unfortunately, we're not following any of those things at this time.
Well, as a note too, our sister city, Wausau, is going to build a new firehouse. I mean, they got one that's much bigger than ours, and still they're looking at a new one.
Correct. They just built a new Station 2, and now they're looking at building a new fire headquarters. The mayor and I and one of the battalion chiefs just recently visited La Crosse. La Crosse is in the process of building 2 brand new fire stations as we speak. They just finished one. We were able to tour that, and they're in the process of building another one. So a lot of other cities outside of Stevens Point are growing and developing, putting new stations in, adding personnel, and we are not. And that's something where we need to be looking at those things in order to exactly what you talked about earlier, when it comes to the cost of recruitment, retention, and keeping our own personnel. It's important we're looking at those things, because if you don't have the proper equipment, the proper people, and the training to go along with it, and the time for them to do those things adequately, we're not going to keep them.
Well, and after personally touring both stations and looking at it and the situations myself, those stations weren't meant for the size of equipment we have, or even the amount of equipment we have when they were built. So it's time that these need to be addressed.
Correct. A 1967 fire apparatus and a 2023 fire apparatus look a little different from each other. And, you know, when you start looking at that data, you know, you look at the simple call volume and what our members, our men and women of the Stevens Point Fire Department are responding to is significantly different than even 40 years ago. I mean, in 1982, we had 1,982 calls. Now, how that worked out, I have no idea, but it actually did. Calls for service. Last year, we had over 5,000 calls for service, and the city has yet to put on one person since that call volume. We've doubled our call volume. We've 10 times the amount of education, and we're still running with the same amount of staffing.
Well, and as I look at it, Chief, too, is that number of calls, that's more in and out of those stations. That's the risk factor of something happening is.
Continues to go up.
Considerably.
Yes, and we are aware of that.
What has been added apparatus-wise to Station 1 since that building was designed in 1967?
There is not one current apparatus in that department that
I
is
don't
there.
mean particularly like a 1967 truck.
Yes.
There was, what, 4 trucks there when they first designed it, and now there's what?
So at that time, there was a Chief's Bay with a Chief's command car and an ambulance that went out the back. There was a truck company, an engine company, and some spare equipment there.
Truck company, engine company means 2 vehicles.
2 vehicles.
2 apparatus.
Now we have Car 4, which is a shift commander's vehicle, battalion chief. We have Car 5, which is our lieutenant, goes out on responses in the county for EMS. We have 3 ambulances completely staffed and ready to go at any time. We have a tower, which is a 100-foot aerial apparatus. We have a foam trailer for airport crash rescue. We have a water trailer that is for all our water rescue. We have a utility truck, squad, and an engine currently inside at that station. So, and then everything else is sitting outside right now. And when you expect to keep equipment for 30 years in the fire service, that's kind of our gold standard is we keep stuff around for about 30 years. If it has to sit out in the elements or in a snowbank or in the backwoods, it's not going to last 30 years.
Correct.
And so that
It's not going to be available for use either.
no, it's not. And I can't go back to the city or my constituents or to the taxpayers knowing that we didn't do them just service and providing these things adequately and doing our job. So,
I just bring that up so people understand that the space is not wasted. It's filled up with equipment that we need that
You know, you
has
can
to be.
offer anyone to come on down.
anytime anybody wants to come down, I will provide a tour to anybody who's willing to.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
in all seriousness, that this is something that needs to be considered, and we can't let it sit on the wayside anymore, that the city has to take this under serious consideration, and a new firehouse, whether it's where that one is or somewhere else, it's been past time to start looking at this.
Correct.
And it's something that we need to deal with and we cannot put off any longer.
Yes.
Has the budget been voted on for next year already?
No, that won't happen until November?
Is
that
there
when next
anything
year's
that
budget usually
this
goes?
commission
Last-
can do to try to change some of these things?
Well,
I don't know those politics.
I understand. You can try.
Or what's your thoughts on it, JB? I mean, it's a
There's
flat,
only so much money
Right.
in the budget.
but it was a
and
flat
there's
out
only
no.
so much money in the
It's
city.
not like
I think this year-
2025, or what, I guess give us your thoughts on that.
So forward thinking, we're doing a lot of things on the fire side right now, and we're doing a lot of forward thinking. We're looking at starting our next strategic plan. That'll be done in 2024, so we'll have to look at our new one starting in 2025. Just sent out a survey asking the members, what is the priority? Is it stations? Is it people? Is it apparatuses? What is the priority to our membership? Because I think that's important too. I could have one opinion, and the commission could have an opinion, or the chief officers could, but unless we know what our department wants or what they feel is a priority, we got to look at that as well. And right now, they're looking at staffing as the #1 priority and of importance. And I say yes, while I understand that, we have to also look at apparatus bays and where we're going to put our things. So we're kind of fighting a few different angles on this, and I don't know where I really want to put what eggs in what basket yet, because I really want to hear from the membership, and that's going to be the priority of where we go this next year. I think this year it's kind of a done deal, but I would like to start, and we're going to have a plan in place prior to the end of the year, what the priority is for 2024 for the fire department.
I think.
Chief City Attorney please come up to the microphone. Name, address.
Andrew Beveridge, 1816 Division. So just some like broader context about sort of like the large capital item side of things over the last just my tenure here, it's about 10 years. Really the only large-scale, just like building facilities type things that have been built at all in the recent past are the new transit facility out on the east side, 80% federally funded, more or less. The new utilities service garage, cool place. Biggest solar array in the county, I believe, on top of there. Paid by the ratepayers for the utilities, for the most part. Beyond that, it's nibbling around the edges. It's things like, moving the police department out of the basement over to this facility and doing some renovation here. You look at the Parks Department, you've got the new park going in at Emerson, which is being funded hugely through donations in the community. You've got the new Plover River Crossing project, again, being funded through a lot of donations. The last 4 or 5 years, in terms of just road reconstruction projects and everything like that, we've raised up our yearly average of road miles that we're replacing, because we know that starting pretty soon, Business 51 is the whale that's going to hoover up most of that money. So we've tried to get ahead of the curve on all the other replacement needs prior to that. So, and then of course, just about everybody's familiar with the city hall talks between the county and the city government and all that stuff. So it's a real challenge. But as somebody who actually works in city hall and has to deal with the facility shortcomings down there, we can find ways to adapt that aren't available to the fire department. We can look at finding other spaces that are available in the community and modifying them to be suitable for our general office needs. JB can't, move into the abandoned Walmart and turn it into a fire department. It's just not safe or practical to do that type of repurposement for those types of facilities. So, he and I are on the phone about 3-4 times a week, and it's not infrequent that those discussions focus on resource issues. So I stand behind everything he's saying 100%, just as from the viewpoint of a somewhat distant but involved onlooker. So.
Right, it might, to the point to getting out to the taxpayers, because again, when you're in need, you're calling 911 and you want fire or police, you want them there. That's, to me, it's like, that's very, very, the utmost in this community, because that's your critical times. And you're right, as Logan has stated, the city department, they can move different areas, have a lot of more ease in operations. So it's definitely something that we know is there, and we're just going to have to really think about this, maybe like you said, with the strategic planning of where and how we want to take this.
Correct, and I think the big thing is moving into next year, what that priority is. And right now, our membership is saying preliminary, it's staffing. And like the city attorney said, and everyone else knows, where we're at funding, it's just not going to happen unless we look at a way to sustain that. And there's really 2 options on the table, and one is actually a FEMA grant, or SAFER, and adding positions that way, and then over time, the burden actually gets placed on the city to absorb those salaries, or we look at referendum. And realistically, where we're going is we're going to have to put it out there, and we're going to have to tell the story to the citizens of Stevens Point, and I think we're going to end up in a referendum before we're done, either in 2024 or 2025. I truly believe that's where we're going.
Well, Chief, it's insane to buy $1 million trucks and not be able to shelter them properly. It's even more insane to ask people to put their lives on the line and not give them a comfortable place to work out of. So, it's kind of like the old saying they used to say, by the time you can afford the house you need, you no longer need it. Well, that doesn't happen with you guys. The house is outgrown, and it's time to face that we need to do something about it.
Correct.
And I think that, maybe where we should focus at is really the education to the public of what's going on, to build that, so they have a deeper understanding that if we get to the point of referendum, what actually the conditions are.
And that'll ultimately be my responsibility to put that all together and work with people, the commission, the chief officers, the local, and everyone else to make sure that we bridge that educational gap and inform everybody appropriately. But looking down the road, I think that's where we're ultimately going to end up here in 24 or 25.
Well, the bottom line is, I think we're all in agreement that we need to do something and take some kind of action. That's not important. The people that you need to convince is the city council, because they're the ones in charge of facilities. We have no vote on that.
Correct.
That's out of our pocket. So it has to be convinced to the city council that that's a priority, and that they need to make it a priority, and that it's going to cost a lot of money. And the council and the city itself has to be willing to step up and take care of that issue. And if the councilmen aren't going to do that, well, then I guess I would say that you need to vote appropriately as a citizen of the community. Is there anything else on this subject that we need to talk about at this time? It's something that needs to move forward, in our opinion, and I think the council needs to seriously consider this and move forward with it.
And it is moving forward on all aspects, and it is being informed to the alders as well, and the common council and everyone else. So we are having those talks, and eventually I'm going to have to come forward with some hard conversations and some public information talks.
Very good.
The community has to be aware of it too, because so many times people say they don't realize what's going on.
Correct.
That means all avenues of information need to be out there.
Publicity.
Facebook ain't going to cut it.
No.
Facebook is a useless piece of garbage lately because it's so far behind on everything. You can't rely on that as your contact to get information out accurately and timely to people. It's not working. So please don't rely on that anymore. It's a waste of time.
That'll just be one tool in our toolbox as we move forward.
It's not even a tool. It's, I'm sorry, but it's just really not, shouldn't be considered as informing people anymore, because it's really not. They've changed the algorithm so badly that it's no longer timely in any way, shape, or form.
The only thing I would have to say, if the Facebook pages that are controlled by the departments, that they're putting that information out there, it's coming from a direct source. And outside of that, right?
As long as you're going there to look for it and it's
Right.
there, that's
Right.
great. But you can do the same thing with your city webpage, and it's as accurate and informative as anything that Facebook does, and you're not relying on it to go knock on somebody's door for you. That's all I'm saying, is that
And I think in the end, when it
Work
comes
that
forward
way.
to that, we'll be doing that as well.
Exactly.
We'll be doing knocking on the door, we'll be doing lit drops, we'll be talking to people, communicating all different ways. That's the only way to actually make sure everybody's informed about what is going to happen and take place as we move forward.
Okay. Anything else on this subject? Moving on.
All right.
Agenda item number 11, Fire Chief's report, EMS report. Chief.
All right, so this week, Friday, will be our next graduation class, class 2303. We'll be graduating this Friday at 1500. You are all more than welcome to attend at Station 1. We are going to be graduating one firefighter paramedic and our new deputy fire marshal / EM coordinator as well. One will be moving on to the line and going to A crew. The other individual will be moving to a 40-hour work week underneath in the bureau underneath Division Chief Center. We had another pop-up splash pad. We've had two now this summer, one at Spash and one at Washington, with great success. We want to just again thank the Stevens Point School District for supporting us and allowing us a place to be able to host these splash pads as they did pop up throughout the summer. Next year, We are going to try to host one, probably one a month, June, July, and August, since they were so successful. I'm going to try to coordinate that maybe with Dan Kramer, the Park and Recs director, on maybe a day the pool is going to be closed for some reason. We can provide the splash pad on that day. Again, Chief Kusu talked about Dream Flight, so we can move forward through that. On the second page, again, we talked about property loss. I think an important part of that is year-to-date property saved. You'll see over $7 million in property saved this year alone. And you can see all of the additional training that Division Chief Ewing has been working with the crews on, and the different topics and public activities that DC Center has been orchestrating and moving the department through. On the EMS report, when we talk about those calls for service, again, we talked about Med 1, Med 2 being out and a need for that Medic 3 or Medic 4 to be available to respond. And if you look at August monthly EMS report, you'll see under Medic 4 responses year to date, 76 already this year compared to last year at only being 50. So again, we're not only trending up on the fire side, we're trending up on the EMS side, and we're trending up not only with Med 1 and Med 2, but additional ambulances out, Med 3 and Med 4 out, which again closes down fire apparatuses within the city to provide fire suppression needs. So again, that's another reason why we need to be looking at that staffing. The last thing that I want to bring up in the chief's report is I have been working with everyone within the city discussing overtime for our 40-hour chiefs and not our 56-hour chiefs. The difference is that our 56-hour chiefs are on shift. They are on shift just like all the other personnel within our department. Our 40-hour chiefs have a day job. They are 40 hours a week salaried. They are exempt. And currently, we have been looking at is it legal or not legal to be able to pay these employees? How do we pay these employees? And how often is this occurring? And what I'd like to bring in front of you for discussion, or if anybody has any questions, you can bring it up to me with throughout the next month as we move forward. But Chief Zavara just worked through our ISO reclassification this past year, and we were able to show that 97 times from September of 21 till September of 22, we or one of the 40-hour chiefs came in for an emergency callback in the evening or at night and spent many additional hours within the firehouse. It has happened in the past where these people have been compensated for their time, or when they have a few hours, they've been able to take that time off. What's happening though with the trends in call volume going up and nobody's stepping into these positions and acting when they take this time off, unfortunately, if they don't get the job done, it's not going to happen. So with that, they haven't been able to take any appropriate additional time off. The expectations have been continuously been increasing, and the call volume has been continuously increasing. We have sat down and I have went to seminars, worked with HR, worked with legal and everyone else when it comes to this. And even if you are an exempt status and you are fire or you are emergency services and it's during an emergency service response, you are entitled to an overtime compensation. It is legal to pay that. You do not have to pay that. So what we are doing is we are struggling to get callback for our line staff, and we're paying those individuals double time to come in and fill those positions. We are also struggling to get our chief officers at some point, some type of compensation or time off for those appropriate measures when they are helping as well for those emergency callbacks. So what we've done is we've gone round and round, looked at a bunch of different options and avenues, and at this point, what we've come up with is that we would write a policy. Again, this is how we did it with our battalion chiefs. Again, it's an internal policy that we follow. We would write one for our division chiefs and assistant chiefs. The chief would be excluded. And it would not be for things that are expectations of that job. So if DC Ewing is sitting back there and he is expected to go to Metro trainings on Wednesday nights with the Metro, if he's expected to do a house burn on a Saturday, if he's expected to do all these other things for his job, that's part of his job. If Assistant Chief Zavara is expected to be at a MABUS conference or a meeting, if he is expected to be at an additional Portage County Chiefs meeting in the evening, add something on the weekend, that's part of his job, that's part of his expectations. Chief Gemza, the same thing. If he needs to be at an EMS advisory council in the evenings for his first responders or whatever else, again, that's part of that job. Again, as you move up within the department and move to salary, there are certain expectations of that position. The problem we were running into is the additional expectations of potentially being the duty chief or having to come in and run large-scale fire scenes for multiple hours or come in and assist with callback for multiple hours in the evenings or at night and still be at work during the day. We've come to an agreement downtown that we are looking at potentially paying these individuals. Again, legal has no problem with paying them, and we can, a straight pay wage for their additional duties. So, for an example, if a 40-hour chief comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning for a working fire in the city and is expected to be there for 6 hours, 8 hours, and then still be on the job at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, they're going to receive straight pay for those additional hours worked. Not time and a half, not double time, but straight pay. So that's what they're looking at receiving as a form of compensation. I'm bringing that in front of all of you and the commission to discuss it here. Potentially ask any questions you may have over the next month or two, and then before a policy and procedure is put into place within the Stevens Point Fire Department to pay those people such, I want to be able to have the discussion with the commission.
Well, Chief, one thing I do like about the idea of compensation right away rather than taking time off, because that only compounds. Now you got a shortage somewhere else. You know, he's trying to take that time. Well, that's short something else. It's just like adding too many extension cords together. Sooner or later, something's going to break. So I like to rather pay him up front right away.
And that's why we're at the point where we're at, is because that's what was happening. We were trying to compensate. We were trying to uphold other things and try to help these employees out. But at this point, we can't expect them to accomplish A through F and take their time and you can see the ands just build up, like you said, and eventually it can't happen.
Yep.
I guess I would ask this question, knowing the operations of the fire department, you're talking your division chiefs, your assistant chiefs for the, to assist with callbacks and large fires outside of the normal working. Have we get to our chief also for this, because of the fact that you're also, you know what I mean, that's to me, that's not part, you have a big picture here, but to be working, you know what I mean, coming back, because you do come back for these things, you do come back to assist, you do, the callback if the staffing's not there. I mean, are we looking at that, or is that, I guess give me some feedback on that.
No, The chief would not receive any additional straight pay, any additional compensation for his or her time spent in that role doing those things. It would be for the members of the department that fall between the chief and the represented local that are not being compensated at this time, because some of our members in the department are being compensated as chief officers. There are others that are not, but the chief would not be part of this. I'm not in front of any of you asking for any of that for me. It's for my membership.
We just all know the time and the hours that you, above and beyond.
But,
that you put
and
in.
again, that is, again, we talk about what is part of the job, what isn't part of the job, what should be compensated. And while I agree, there are certain things a department head, there are certain expectations, and, again, we want to move the department forward. But I think this is a huge hurdle for us. When you talk about this, getting compensation for some of our members, we talked about staff and we talk about houses.
Right.
This is another one of those big things. Because, as many of you know, we want to look at in the fire service, and we are sometimes there's too much tradition, and sometimes we're really involved in that and deep into the mentoring and succession planning and programming of those things. We don't have that right now in our department, because if you look at how we expanded over this last year and a half, 2 years in the restructure, half of our management staff or more came from the outside. And we didn't get applications internally because nobody wanted to make that step. Because straight pay, we're not talking overtime, we're talking base wages. I have company officers and motor pump operators making more than chief officers at base wage. There's not that opportunity to mentor them to move up, have that succession planning. We got to look at different perks, different ideas, different options. This is one of those things on the table.
Well, Chief, we're in competition for employees anyways, and other places are probably doing this already. So we need to be able to be looking forward.
Matter of fact, when you say that, we just were in La Crosse and just met with La Crosse Fire, and this is actually this is their mayor, their HR, and everyone else in the city of La Crosse is supporting them and moving to this actual venue, is that when those chief officers of the fire department respond in for multiple alarm fire or a mass casualty incident when it comes to EMS, that's how they're going to be compensated in the future, as well as through that straight time or that straight pay.
This situation is nothing new, because we've had this problem with wage compression, is the keywords they used to call it years ago, where anyone under the chiefs or the assistant chiefs was getting time and a half or extra time when they would go in, and there was no reason that they were motivated to move up into those other positions, because they would literally lose money by taking an increase in responsibility and not be compensated for the time. This solution, I'm not sure it's right. You and I have talked about it, and I've had some time to think about it. I don't know if it's going to cure the problem or make it worse. I don't know if this is the right answer. It's something to think about and something we obviously need to talk about. I'm just not sure if it's the right answer yet. And I don't know that there is a good answer, because we couldn't come up with anything before when we used to call it wage compression. Because it seems like with the union and the union negotiations and some of the things that go on in that part, their wages continue to go up while the chiefs and the assistant chiefs get compensated and their wages go up, but not as quickly. And they don't have the same compensations for overtime because they're a salaried position. So there is no overtime or no opportunity for it. It was supposed to be made up in a higher wage, but their wages haven't been going up as quickly or as thoroughly. And unfortunately, there's only so much money in the community. And if you look at average household incomes in Stevens Point, they haven't increased that greatly in the last 20 years. And we're asking people to pay for more things. We talked about a firehouse. I don't know how many million that's going to be, but it's going to be a good chunk of change.
8. Right now.
As a nice starting number.
Right.
That's without having the actual plans and everything else and all the details. Every other section of government is also asking for money from the constituents that live here. We all pay taxes. We all have things that we need to pay for besides that. I'm just saying, there's got to be a solution here, but everybody needs to stop and think about things in a serious manner before they start throwing dollars around at every problem. That's not going to solve everything. And as a community, we're going to have to decide what the priorities are all the way around and how we're going to take care of this, because it's going to come to a head.
It is, and Chief Cuso and I, we have been working with the other directors in the city with Baker Tilly and the new city pay plan and how that's going to be implemented and what part that'll play. Now, that might play a piece of this, but ultimately is not going to be the fix in the end. And again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what that fix is either. In recruitment and retention and retaining our employees and getting that succession planning and mentoring. But it's just, this is one more thing that I'm looking at to take a step in the right direction. And if it's something we can get and have an open discussion on, that's where we're going with this.
And that's the way I kind of view it too. It might not solve everything, but it's a step. It's a step to retain who we have in those positions also, with the callback and stuff. And so if it's a thing that we, collectively agree on, with what you're going to present to us, and is that going to be like in the next meeting or meeting?
So I'm going to sit down with legal over the next month.
Okay.
Because he doesn't realize. He didn't even realize some of the things had been decided or had been discussed. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to him yet today since I had a busy morning and things were moving. But this is where some of the things and directions of, or the discussions are moving. And so next month, I'd like to come back and answer any questions that the commission may have and before moving forward this, and then actually bring legal with as well to show that, it's an option. It doesn't have to be, but this is an option. We're not doing anything that's illegal here.
And like you said, we can each meet with you individually in regards to the data and all the stuff, and we hash out a lot of these questions ahead of time.
Yep, any questions you may have, you know how to get a hold of me. And then I think the big thing is, though, when we start talking about that, when it comes to the legal aspects of exempt employees, and being, though, that you are part of emergency services, what that allows. And again, it's not going to be at that double time or time and a half, it'd be at a straight wage.
I think that's important, but I think something else to remember is that if this department's going to ask for that, I guarantee you the police department's going to ask for the same. And then who knows where it's going to go, the streets department and who else. And I'm not trying to be negative towards anyone or try and not compensate people for their jobs. But this is a big issue and it's going to cost money, and that money has to come from somewhere.
Right.
And that's the more important part, is to figure out where that's going to come from, because I don't know that the people of Stevens Point can afford much more. Anything else? Yes.
Question for Mr. Genzeit. Those new chairs, stair chairs.
Yes. Can you come up?
Was there room in the ambulances already for them? And are those track chairs that actually literally walk up the stairs? Is that it?
Yes, I didn't get the first part of the question. What was
I was just wondering, is there room in the ambulances for them?
Yes,
Because it is assigned to 1 and 2.
Yes, so they purchased four, the county purchased four, that was part of our capital. They got it through the Flex grant, through the state, which was great, which was the same grant we got the airboat, or the boat from. They do fit, they're about the same size. They're battery operated, they use a Milwaukee, I believe it's an M18 battery, which is what our fleet currently uses, so we'll be able to interchange them as we need to. And the track is driven, so you press a button and the track will go up or down, so that will alleviate the strain on our medics' backs and on their arms when they're taking patients up and down. Trying to alleviate the need to bring a cot into a house, and therefore making it a safer environment.
Well, I just remember being on the negotiating team about 5-6 years ago when we were talking about it. I'm just thrilled that they finally came to fruition.
We are very happy to have them, and I think they'll be a big success.
Oh. Well, as many two-story homes we have and a lot of older homes in this town.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Anything else in the chief's report? No?
I'd like to say something to let the commissioners know and let the citizens of Stevens Point know that the Fire Station 1, this is the second summer, there's still no air conditioning.
Okay. We were working on that. What happened with that?
We are still currently working on it. What I'm being told is the parts are not available to be able to finish the project, and we are continuing to work forward with Badger as we move forward. But yes, this is the second summer now that Station 1 has been without air conditioning, and we are actually more concerned about the heat for this year. Last year, we limped along throughout the year. But what I'm being told is there potentially may not be heat moving into the fall. And if I don't have heat, I don't know how that's going to work with pipes freezing or bursting or some of the other problems. I mean, yes, I can start a burn barrel in the apparatus bay, and I'm sure DC Center will have all sorts of great things to say to me, along with a lot of other people in the city. But at this point, I don't know what my option is if we don't have the heat. Air conditioning, it's been a struggle, but if we don't have the heat this year, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do.
Well, and as I have looked over those last several months of approving bills, I see Station 1 and some of Station 2, more and more expenses. This is why it's time, what we talked about earlier, because we keep throwing more and more money after duct tape repairs instead of a true solution.
And we've done a lot of repairs this year. Well, we repaired the roof. We put a new back parking lot in. We're in the process of doing an HVAC system. We're in the process of, the station there was time to update a lot of things, and we're in the process, but again, it all costs money and takes time. So we're working through it. It's a struggle to our membership when they go out and they work and train in 100-degree heat, or go to and respond to a fire call and are expected to go into 400+ degree temperatures with all their turnout gear, and then come back and told to cool down, except there's no place for them to cool down.
Okay. You said there's, excuse me, missing parts. It's not missing parts for an old repair. This is for a new modification?
We are completely gutting the system and putting a whole new system in.
Correct. So we have decided to take care of this problem. Why did the contractor not have all the appropriate parts when this was ordered to install this?
That I can't answer. I can find out.
But that's what's going on. It's not that we're modifying something.
No.
This is a new piece of equipment, and this is the heat also, not just air conditioned.
It's the complete system.
Is there anything that the city can do to help this along?
Well, we're actually going to have a meeting here in the very near future, and I can come back and maybe give a report or a status update at next month's meeting.
Well, you kind of caught us off guard here, making us know this today and not.
Well, I made it known, he didn't.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that this is the first I've heard that we're still having this problem, and we decided back in, what, March, April, that we were going to fix this,
Correct.
and it's now September. So I'm kind of disappointed that we're just finding out about it now, that it's been going on all summer, and that it hasn't been taken care of.
Well, has the expectation been set to you that it was gonna be taken care of, and it hasn't?
The expectation was that we were going to go one summer without air conditioning, and then everything would have been fixed for next year. Then coming into this spring, it wasn't fixed. We barely made it through the winter for heat, and now we're going a second year without air conditioning. When addressing the situation, I was told that even though it was contracted, there were still parts that were not available to complete the project.
So it's parts that obviously they don't make. Whoever made the heating and air conditioning unit was supposed to either make or get those parts to be included. Why did we decide to go with this unit if it wasn't all there and available? Is this, I mean, you're selling me a product, I don't buy a truck without tires on it, you know what
I mean,
I
are we
mean?
contractually, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Caught in this, or is there like another company that would have those parts? Because, you know, like you said, if we're headed into
Yeah. We
no
need
air
to fix this
conditioning
problem. We
and
can't wait
lack of
for them.
heat in the winter, I mean, you can't operate. I mean,
Correct.
Lack of heat, I mean, that's,
And that's where we're at. So that, we're going to meet in this next month we're going to have an update for this quarter where we're at on everything. So myself and Battalion Chief Kudrowski will be meeting with the company.
Okay.
is this something potentially that we need legal to be involved in with the contract that we
Well,
signed?
you know, and I hate to say it, but this really isn't, it is our concern because it's bad, but this is a building and properties issue, which is the city council's to deal with, and their budget and their, because it's a building thing, not us thing.
Correct, and they approved the additional funding
We should
for
be
it.
all over this.
But I will say this is, I don't disagree with you, but pointing fingers right now, it's a little too late for that. We need to figure out how to fix it.
I'm saying they're the ones responsible. They're the ones that need to take care of this problem, get it done, and get it fixed. If we tried to do it, we'd be stepping on their toes. That's all I'm saying.
So I'll come back next month with a report on that
Thank you.
and where we're at.
Appreciate an update. Anything else from the fire chief's
Well, why
report?
would you say this in a realistic expectation? If they don't have the parts for the air conditioning, is that the same scenario for the heating side of it?
Because it's
Or-
all-
oh,
yes.
It's all,
It's all
Okay.
one.
okay.
Okay. Is there another one available from a different company?
Well,
That
the
would be
problem is
my question.
they're building most of it as they go, you know, pulling lines, putting sheet metal, ductwork in. It's,
Then it shouldn't be a part missing, because if they're going to make all that stuff, they should be making. But anyways, we don't need to get into that right now, because that's whatever. We can't fix it from here. So we'll move on.
All right.
Are you done with your report?
unless someone else has any other questions for me.
No?
Motion to accept the chief's report.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Kerschling, second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions, dare I ask? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We've accepted the report and placed it on file. Agenda item number 12. Discussion with possible action on final revisions to policies and procedures for the Police and Fire Commission.
First off, apologies for the late hour of getting the clean version over. So obviously, we went through pretty much everything, recap last month. I haven't made any further changes to it.
Okay.
And if you're all ready to proceed with it, it's got my blessing.
Thank you. What we're going to do at this point in time, I think, is everybody, my recommendation is we all take this read it, go over it, do all the proofreading that needs to be done, also do any changes or additions or deletions, ask your questions of the city attorney or the appropriate chief. And we're going to let this sit until next month. If there's anybody in the public that has any questions or comments for seeing this document, it is available online.
Certainly can be made available online.
I would request that you do that. If we have anybody from any of the departments that are affected by this policies and procedures, that if you have any comments or questions, please bring them forward to the appropriate places. And next month, we will take formal action on any changes that need to be made and perhaps making a final vote. Anybody?
I would agree with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, like if it's out there and our chiefs also let everyone below them, it's out there, read it, right?
Comments, questions,
Now is your
suggestions?
time. Now is your time to give the input.
Yep, and then we'll put it on the agenda for next month and either make the appropriate changes that come forward or make them and take a final vote, depending on how major they are. Is that acceptable by the city attorney?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Everybody good with that? Okay, then that's what we will do. And at this point in time, we are adjourned. Thank you for your time.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.